So get this. My wife, Kathy, 38F, cheated on me with my business partner and then left me for him. The kicker? She came crawling back crying when he dumped her. We were together for 19 years, married for 16, and we've got a 14-year-old daughter. All of this blew up about 6 months ago when she left us to be with Leon, my ex-business partner. Leon and I go way back. We used to work together and got along so well that we decided to start our own business. We worked together for 5 years, but turns out, for 3 of those years, he was secretly seeing my wife. I only found out because I stumbled upon some texts on Kathy's phone. When I confronted her, she didn't even try to deny it. She straight up admitted everything and said she was tired of hiding it. I was completely crushed. I had no idea she was unhappy and was ready to do whatever it took to fix things. I even suggested we could still make it work. Yeah, pretty desperate move, I know. But she just got annoyed and told me she only married me because she got pregnant and didn't want to be alone. She said she'd tried to love me, but it never worked out, and now she'd found someone she really loved. So she left, filed for divorce, and everything was sorted pretty quickly. She didn't ask for any settlement or alimony, and we split our assets fairly. It hit me hard, especially thinking about our daughter, but I realized there was no way I could make it work with her after all that. After the divorce was filed, I had it out with Leon. He apologized and said he'd wanted to tell me but didn't know how. Then he quit, sold his shares, and said he and Kathy were moving to Boston because she got a job offer there. He also said he'd work with his cousin in Boston. That was the last I heard from either of them, and I hadn't seen Kathy since the divorce was finalized 2 months ago. Things were tough for my daughter and me, but we were managing. Running the business kept me busy, and I wanted to make sure my daughter had the future she deserved. Then, out of the blue, about a week ago, Kathy showed up at our door around 11 p.m., banging the door like crazy. My daughter was already in bed, but we both rushed to see what was up. When we saw it was Kathy, my daughter begged me not to let her in. She's been really mad at her mom ever since she cheated on me and didn't bother keeping in touch. But I figured if Kathy was at our door at that hour, something must be up. So I opened the door. Instead of coming in, she started yelling from the doorstep, threatening to sue me and take me to court. I was baffled and had to ask her to slow down and explain what was going on. Turns out, Leon had been a nightmare ever since they moved to Boston. They'd been fighting non-stop, and he blamed her for ruining his life because he had to leave the business. He hated working with his cousin, who kept undermining him, and all their fights were about how she exposed the affair and screwed everything up before he was ready to deal with it. It was all a mess, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, the night before she showed up at our door, he got super angry and chucked a vase at her. She tried to dodge it, but it still hit her arm, leaving her with a nasty cut. Up until then, he'd only been verbally abusive, but this time was different. She finally had enough, packed her bags, and caught the next flight to talk to me about it. She said Lion didn't even bother to reach out or apologize after she left. Then, she went off on me, saying it was all my fault because she believed I knew about his abusive behavior, but kept it a secret to punish her. She thought that was cruel, claiming that she did me a favor by not making a big deal during the divorce and expected me to have her back and keep her safe. Honestly, it was all so stupid because, while I knew Lon from work really well, that was strictly professional. He was a different guy at the office, and I barely knew anything about his personal life or dating history. Her accusations about me hiding things on purpose didn't make any sense, and it just left me annoyed. I tried explaining that I had no clue about any of this and apologized for her situation, but I also pointed out that it wasn't my fault. She could threaten lawsuits all she wanted, but deep down, she knew it wasn't my fault. But she kept arguing, dead set on believing I was in on it, and even said she'd fight for everything she didn't during our divorce. The argument was getting nowhere, and my daughter, who had been standing by the door the entire time, finally stepped in. She told Kathy to leave, which caught both of us by surprise. Kathy snapped at her, telling her to mind her own business and go to bed. My daughter refused, saying Kathy had no right to talk to me that way, especially after all she had put us through. She pointed out how heartbroken I had been since discovering Kathy's affair, while Kathy just moved on with her life. My daughter reminded her that she hadn't even bothered to stay in touch with her own kid because she was busy with Lion. My daughter, just 14, told Kathy she had failed as a wife and a mom and had no business acting like the victim. Hearing her speak like that made me realize just how much she had matured because of the divorce. Kathy was left speechless, and then my daughter delivered the final blow, saying Kathy had to deal with her own mess now since we were no longer her family. She slammed the door in Kathy's face and went to her room. I could hear Kathy crying outside, but I didn't bother checking on her. I went back to bed, trying not to think about it, and kept myself busy with work for the next few days. I was proud of my daughter for standing up for me. Things were going okay until 3 days ago when Kathy showed up again, this time with a lawyer, demanding full custody of our daughter. Luckily, our daughter was out with friends, so she didn't know about any of this yet. Kathy said our daughter's outburst last time made her decide she didn't want her living with me anymore. She claimed the reason she hadn't kept in touch after the affair was to avoid a custody battle and not disrupt my life further. I wasn't buying any of that. I told her I knew the real reason she didn't fight for anything during the divorce, let alone custody, was that she wanted to move on quickly with Lon. Her excuses weren't fooling me. But now she was dead set on getting full custody, saying she wouldn't let me ruin our daughter's perception of her or teach her to disrespect her mom. So, the last time we met up, my ex-wife had been super disrespectful to our daughter. Instead of standing up to her, I somehow encouraged my daughter's behavior. Now she's threatening to take this to court. I basically told her, go ahead, and slammed the door because I was just done with the drama. But now, I'm second-guessing myself. Did she have a point? Was I in the wrong? I'm trying to convince myself I'm doing the right thing, but honestly, I'm not sure. Update 1. After thinking it over, I've decided I have nothing to be sorry about. My daughter stood up for me, which was the right thing to do. The comments I read made me realize how ridiculous I was being. My ex literally cheated on me, so I don't owe her any sympathy. Some folks even pointed out that I should talk to my daughter about what's going on, especially if Kathy the ex goes after full custody. So I had a chat with my daughter yesterday and told her everything. No secrets. She's proven she's mature enough to handle it. It sucks she had to grow up so fast, but at least now she's prepared for what might happen. We haven't heard from Kathy yet, but we expect to soon. My daughter is 14, so her opinion counts in court if it comes to that. If we can settle during mediation, great. But just in case, I've made sure she really wants to stay with me, and she does. She's made it clear she wants nothing to do with Kathy right now. She said maybe in the future she might reconnect, but not now. She blames her mom for the family falling apart, and honestly, she's right. I don't want to be the dad who turns his kid against his ex out of spite. But in this case, Kathy did that all on her own. They used to be super close, so this is a huge change. Kathy is upset that our daughter is siding with me, which is ironic since she's always tried to be closer to her. For those curious, I didn't tell our daughter about the affair, Kathy did. She spilled the beans in an email a few days after moving out, without even checking with me. Our daughter was really upset but still wanted to talk to her mom just once. Kathy refused, saying she was too busy with the divorce and didn't think it was appropriate to discuss. And that was that. Kathy stopped talking to us after that, so my daughter's view of her changed completely. I don't think it's fair for Kathy to hold me responsible for that. Anyway, I spoke to my lawyer, and we're ready to handle this. Update 2. A few days ago, Kathy finally served me with a notice for full custody. My lawyer and I contested it right away. We're meeting with a court-appointed mediator tomorrow. But get this. Leon, the guy Kathy cheated with, called me up out of nowhere. He wanted me to send Kathy back to him because he hadn't heard from her and assumed she was with me. I told him I had no clue where she was living, but mentioned she was fighting for custody of our daughter. I didn't do this to help Leon, just to be clear. I thought maybe if he talked to Kathy, he could convince her to go back and possibly sign away her rights to our daughter. So I spilled the beans to him, and he didn't even realize he was being played. He's clueless, I told my lawyer, and he agreed it was smart. Even though things are looking good for us, it doesn't hurt to save time and energy. Update 3. Kathy and I had our first mediation session a couple of days ago. And so, of course, it went downhill fast. She disagreed with everything we said and basically called the whole thing a waste of time. She ended the session in under half an hour. After she left, I went straight to pick up my daughter from school and headed home. To my surprise, Leon was sitting on our doorstep, looking like a total mess. I mean, after a few months with Kathy, I could see why. Anyway, I told him he had to leave because my daughter and I just got home and we wanted to chill. I really didn't have the energy for more drama. I'd already helped him as much as I could. Not to mention, I wasn't too keen on helping the guy who had an affair with my wife. But he broke down, saying Kathy wasn't replying to his texts after their last fight, and he had no clue where she was. I told him, just like last time, I didn't know where she was living and couldn't help him. Leon just slumped on the porch steps and started crying, head in his hands. I was getting pretty annoyed by then. These two had ruined my life, and now he wanted my help to fix things. I told my daughter to go inside so I could handle this. Once she was in, I told Leon that he had to leave. I was done with both of them. For good measure, I gave him Kathy's parents' contact info and told him to try them instead. But he needed to leave us alone. I told him how he and Kathy had destroyed my life and that I didn't want to see him again. He tried to apologize, saying he had fallen in love with her and didn't mean to hurt me. But I wasn't interested in hearing any of that. So, he left. I'm just so exhausted and confused all the time. I don't even know what I'm doing with my life. I'm really hoping that Leon and Kathy can get their act together at least, so they'll leave my daughter and me alone, and I can finally move on. Right now, I'm just numb and can't wait for this nightmare to end. Update 4. Hey everyone! A few days ago, Kathy decided to end our mediation sessions. She said she wanted to take things to court, which, let's be real, wouldn't end well for her. But she's finally realizing the reality, I guess. She and Leon came to visit me a couple of hours ago. I didn't let them in because my daughter was home and feeling a bit sick, so I told them to wait for me at a nearby cafe. I got my mom to come over and watch my daughter, then went to meet them. Kathy and Leon apologized for everything, but I didn't want to waste time on fake apologies. I just wanted to know why they called me. They admitted that they had made a huge mistake by screwing me over and weren't happy in Boston. Kathy missed our daughter, and Leon missed being his own boss. Kathy wanted me to agree to let our daughter visit her every weekend, or at least every other weekend. Leon, on the other hand, wanted to come back as a partner in the business and start a new branch in Boston. The kicker was that they wanted an answer within a couple of days, because Kathy's job was on the line. I told them no way. Leon had already sold his shares and resigned, so there was no way I was hiring him back. And Kathy's idea was ridiculous. Our daughter shouldn't have to travel every other weekend just to see her mom. Kathy should have thought of that before moving to Boston. They argued and said they didn't want to fight this out in court, but I told them they had no chance of winning in court anyway. The only thing I could offer was to talk to our daughter and see if she wanted to meet Kathy when she visited. They had to take it or leave it. Kathy seemed desperate enough to agree. I'm going to talk to my daughter when she feels better, but I won't force her to do anything she doesn't want to. Update 5. Hi. So, a couple of months have passed. I talked to my daughter about meeting her mom, and she needed some time to think. I told Kathy, and we haven't had any contact since. I don't know or care if she and Leon sorted out their issues, but I hear they're still in Boston. Good for them, I guess. At least they're leaving me alone now. I'm just focusing on moving on and living my life. The best revenge is living well, right? So I'm working hard and making sure my daughter grows up to be a good person, nothing like her mother. I really hope I succeed in that.